Hey friends, welcome back to another review. It's been a little while, but we are really excited to bring you a review of Factions of Soul. We had the pleasure of meeting the folks that designed this game in the beginning of their design process, and it has been an absolute joy watching them bring this game to fruition. At the time of this recording, Factions of Soul is on its way to Kickstarter coming September 13th. So if you're not familiar with Kickstarter, head on over there and go check out Factions of Soul on September 13th. Yay!
Yes, and we'll be talking about the game as the video goes on, but some of the Kickstarter kind of upgrades that they plan are really cool. We got a little sneak peek, so make sure to go check it out.
If you
we really like it.
Upgraded meeple tokens that look like spaceships, you're gonna be excited.
Yes. So have a check out.
Yeah.
So, Factions of Soul is a 1 to 4 player game, and it plays in about 90 to 120 minutes, depending on the player count. And the whole game is set up around moving around our solar system and traveling to the different planets. What's really unique, I think, about this game is the movement portion. There's a bunch of sectors that kind of connect all the planets. And in order to move through the different sectors, you have to place down energy. Now, it's not as simple as just placing down energy and moving. You're going to have to place down energy plus 1 for however many energy is already in the sector.
Yeah, it becomes an exponential component, which can make things really complicated if you have everybody centered around one area of the game, in a good way.
Yes, yeah, and so as everyone's kind of taking their turns and traveling to the different planets, to get the different cards in order to get explorers, exoplanets, tech to give you a little bonus.
Upgrades, resources. You use resource to upgrade on your individual player boards, and that gives you additional powers and capabilities.
And so as they're doing it, obviously you see the board will get more and more filled with energy, making it just so much more difficult to kind of traverse. And the whole point of it is in each round, you're trying to find the best way to navigate without getting stuck out into space with no way of getting energy back.
Now, if you get stuck, there is a mechanic. If you're in this very outer portion and you have no way to get back, you can get rescued.
Yes.
The first time you get rescued, it's free.
Yes.
Anytime after that, it's minus 20 points. So you have to be very selective.
Yes, 20 points is a lot in this game.
It is.
It's going to hurt a lot, so try your best
not to get stuck.
Exactly. But the whole puzzle behind trying to move, I think, is probably the most exciting part of this game.
I will say, another interesting dynamic that has to do with movement. So in each round, you're moving around, leaving energy. At the end of the round, the planets shift.
Yes.
Depending on where you are sitting next to a planet, you can actually then slingshot yourself kind of in their momentum, which is really, really cool. And if you're thoughtful about where you end your round, it can get you quite far.
So as the planets are moving and you're slingshotting or like using the gravity kind of move with the planets, you can kind of combo that into movement with multiple planets. As the way you do it is one planet moves, everyone gets to move if they're adjacent to it. The next planet in order moves, which then you can follow that path. So you can end up kind of slingshotting really far around the board if you set yourself up right, and can really, I guess, in the next round, really set you up in a good position, especially if you're low on energy at the start of the round. So yeah, that puzzle too is really fun, along with the movement of leaving energy behind.
Yeah.
What I've really liked about this too is there is quite a bit of player interaction at this portion with it. And if you're really smart about it, you can kind of block people off by taking certain paths through different sectors to get to a planet. Maybe it's not the, I guess, most straightforward, but you can kind of block off a certain area, forcing people to have to spend more of their energy. And you only have
to go there.
Yeah, and you only have a limited amount of energy that you can hold at a single time. Now, there's ways of getting more energy throughout the round, but at a single time, it's really dependent on your upgraded battery.
Yeah, you start with the capability of being able to hold 16 energy. And then as you upgrade your battery, you can go to 20, 24, and then finally 32. As a person who's not very good at this game, although I really enjoy it, that's something I always end up leaving behind. I don't spend enough time getting resources and then doing the subsequent upgrades. So I end up being the player at the very last round who still only has 16 energy. And it can be kind of challenging. And so that is something you have to be thoughtful about. Another thing that I really like about this game is just because you don't spend all your time upgrading doesn't necessarily mean you're going to end up with low point values. There's so many other ways that if you're deciding you want to focus on collecting exoplanets and the explorers to then populate those planets, that can actually get you very, very far in the end. So you can kind of make those selective decisions in the beginning and strategically decide, okay, I'm going to invest my time in upgrades, or I'm going to invest my time in collecting exoplanets. I'm bad at upgrades. I always go for planets. It just seems to make more sense for me.
Yeah, and kind of talking about some like the different things you can do. The ways you'll kind of gain points and the way you'll end up winning, I guess, after the third round, you're just going to calculate all the total points that you've gotten. And there's quite a variety of things that'll get you points, which is really great because you can try different strategies. Is you can focus, like Kirby said, all on your upgrade, which you get points for the amount of upgrades you have, and then how many completed machines, they're calling them. It's basically placing all the necessary upgrades in that portion of the board. You can do explored planets, which is placing your explorers on that planet.
And each planet has their own point value, and they also become kind of like an engine for yourself round to round. They will either give you points or they're going to give you resources and energy depending on kind of what that looks like.
Yeah, and the planets are, I guess you can describe them as a set collection, right? You're going to get more points based on the type of planet that you have explored. So if you can get a whole bunch
based on the diversity of planets.
Right. If you get a whole bunch of the volatile, you'll get more points of them than having one of each type. So trying to like gather all of one type and get that explored will net you quite a bit of points. You can also do secret objectives, which
those can be incredibly powerful. And there are some secret objectives that you can actually turn in at any time, right? If you fulfill the secret objective, not at the end of the game, but in the middle of the game, there you go. There's your points.
Yeah, and the different ways, there's end of round ones that you'll get, fulfill them at the end of the round, at any time, like you said, and then there's some at the end of the game.
You can collect those secret objectives by visiting Saturn. That's another really cool thing about this. Each kind of initiative that you take, whether it's collecting explorers, collecting an exoplanet, collecting a secret objective, or collecting tech, that has a subsequent planet. So that's where you're then spending the energy to get there because that's what you've decided that you're going to invest your time in.
Yes, and there is quite a few different strategies you can go, and I probably would say don't focus on one.
I don't know. That's hard to say because I focused only on planets my first game, and I didn't do too badly. Again, I'm not great at this game, but it's so fun, and you can surprise yourself if you just end up doing really, really well. An interesting mechanic about this game as well. They have they call them Earth cards. They happen twice per game.
Stellar events.
Yes, thank you.
At Earth.
At Earth.
Yes.
And some of these are really, really fantastic bonuses that you can potentially get. There's two different options. And if you visit the Earth planet, you get to vote. And then whichever initiative has the most votes, the stellar event would be the one that's there. Like this one, Venus and Saturn switch positions, or Uranus and Earth switch positions. Whereas other stellar events can be catastrophic.
Yes, very game-changing.
Oh yeah, like completely changing everything. You can have an initiative and then all of a sudden that initiative makes no more sense. But they're kind of those secret little things you have to be mindful of. Because if you don't pay attention to them, somebody can swing the game in one move. And that's that.
And what's nice though too about it is you're voting basically by going to the planet, doing the action at Earth. To which effect you want. So at least you have a little bit of a sway in which effect. And because not all of the planets are going to necessarily give you points, but they will do something to help you. Mercury, the one closest to the sun, will give you energy back during that round. So it's really important to be able to find a path back there. And it's the only planet that you don't have to move in order to do its action. Normally, you have to take a movement and then be adjacent to that planet to do the action. Mercury just allows you to keep drawing the deck and regaining energy, obviously only up to the amount that your battery can hold. Go ahead.
One of the other aspects we haven't discussed with this game are the individual player boards and their subsequent powers.
Just what I was going to talk about. Yes.
Some of them, depending on how you play them, can be very, very powerful. This one that I've got in front of me is called Daughters of Einstein, and their special power throughout the game is that when they visit a planet, they can then basically end up moving that planet. They can, and then use the slingshot movement to move with it.
Yes.
If you forget about it, well, then you forget about it. But if you use it, it's very, very helpful.
Yes, she's really good at just moving around the board easily without having to spend a ton of energy, right? Because if you can slingshot yourself and only be one space away from the next planet that you want, it's really great.
Yep. You can also then try and avoid some of those highly populated sectors that we mentioned earlier that are just more expensive.
Yeah. And then one that I've actually just got to play not too long ago, which was really interesting, is Megacore Inc. And essentially one of their upgrades allows them to mine an asteroid, I believe, for more resources than you would get potentially from flipping it over and just revealing how much you're going to get. You get an extra 2. So this person faction really gets boosted by the amount of resources. So I was like going really hard into upgrading my cargo hold to be able to hold as many as I could. And it just sort of like exponentially grew as I could. And I like how all of them have their own unique aspects, and you can play into it, and you can kind of see that
it changes the game for you, which is really neat.
It will create a whole new strategy each time you play a different character. And just because they may be able to focus on something really heavily, you don't necessarily have to do that strategy. No. It could just be like an extra little boost that they give you. And you'll still be completely viable in this game, which is really awesome.
Yeah. I think just from a I would say, quality standpoint, they've done a phenomenal job with this game. The little spaceship tokens that you get are like the cutest little things, and the energy tokens, and you have kind of your standard energy, and then you have like the one that counts as 4, and they've done a nice job differentiating in colors. They've been very thoughtful to ensure that this game is colorblind friendly. Yes. So even if you're colorblind and you're looking at this thing, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do, it is colorblind friendly. You'll be able to play it no problem, which I think is a really cool, very considered aspect that they've added into it. Especially
because this board gets filled up with so many cubes that, had it not been, oh God, being able to see what is going on there, because some of the secret objectives are very dependent on other people's colors and where things are actually, energy is located on the board. So yes, being able to see it is
very important.
Very important.
Another thing is, I would say just the art, the style in general. Like, this is the rule book, and as you look through it, it is just like the cutest thing. It's kind of retro. Like, everything that they did with this game was very thoughtful and clearly very intentional. And so that's something that I wanted to make sure we called out, because I think it's adorable. Even like the player boards, individual player boards, and the art that's on each of those, each of the cards, all of the planets. Oh, and all the exoplanets are named after actual exoplanets, which is awesome.
The designer Elam is
one of them.
Yes, one of them is getting a degree in physics, and so it's very clear that he loves what is going on here, and you can see and has the knowledge behind this, which is fantastic.
So just in wrap up, I think this game it can be daunting when you first look at it, right? There's lots of cards, you're not sure what you're gonna do, there's lots of planets, it's new, the movement style's new. And then as you start to take those first couple turns, it becomes very comfortable, right? You kind of start to build that understanding of, okay, I visit my planet, I get the cards. You start to see your strategy take place. And then for gamers that prefer to be very strategic up front, I think this game lends itself really nicely to that as well. I have enjoyed all the times that I've played this game. Space is not usually a theme that I'm into, but I think the way that they did this game, and for me it's the whole retro aspect of it, that was what drew me in. I think it's super cute. I really like it, and I would recommend it to anybody who's looking for maybe a medium weight game.
Yeah, and like kind of what we said, we talked a lot about the movement, but this is quite a unique movement mechanic that I've seen across other games that you do a lot of movement, and it not only is it just like placing down these cubes, making it unique, it's a very interesting personal puzzle while also being player interactive that I think I've enjoyed the most is trying to move around the solar system as much as I possibly can in a turn without getting stuck. And each time I try to push it a little more and more. And as I've gotten kind of familiar with it, I've been able to get better about like being very particular about my movement and blocking people off. Especially when, like, say I'm playing Megacore where I kind of need to corner some of those asteroids in order to get the resources. You can kind of early on block off a bunch of it or make it just then rethink like, oh, do I want to go there? I'm going to be spending so much more energy. And you're like, okay, this is lending really well to my strategy. And I just think it's, I've had a bunch of fun with it. And I don't think it's not really gotten old because of the amount of cards and how much it changes up in the variability. The movement obviously stays the same with the thing, but it's just a challenge every single time. And I like it a lot.
Yeah. We highly recommend it. It's very fun. You're going to ensure that you're getting a quality game. And then some of their unlocked Kickstarter goals are really, really cool. And so we're very hopeful about them. And we certainly are planning to back this game as well.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to give it a like and give us a subscribe. It'll help a lot. And make sure to go check us out over on Instagram. If you aren't following us over there, it's Specular Board Games.
And TikTok.
And TikTok now that we're doing TikTok with dinosaurs. A dinosaur suit, yes.
That's what you get.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
cool. Thanks,
for
friends.
tuning in. See you, friends.
Bye.